Here we are with the very last episode. This one, is the last one I created, and it is still so near and dear to my heart. And again, it has such an amazing journey, just like all the rest of them had. But it started last year when we did the episode on M's and O's. Then I come along and I'm thinking about bringing color and weave to it. I haven't worked on this for very long, just the last couple of months. And I just have to show you these again, because I know you just looked at this last month. But this wonderful weaver, Marilyn Cowgill from New Hope, Pennsylvania, sent me these when I said in the episode last year that it's kind of hard to find a lot of information on M's and O's. It's not like I've been able to find a whole book. Anyway, clearly she had some in to all of these articles in the Shuttlecraft Bulletin, which was published by Harriet Tidball, and I believe Mary Atwater before that. Anyway, when I looked at these two little pamphlets that came in the mail, I didn't read them end on end, but clearly I saw this image right here, right there. It's called Varying M's and O's, and my brain instantly attached to this threading draft here, as my brain so often does. It sees the threading, it sees the rhythm, it sees the repetitive pattern within the threading, and then I can relate it to other things. So when I saw this, I instantly thought of Huck, because that is how I thread an A unit and a B unit on 4 shafts in Huck. So that little seed sat in my brain all winter long, growing little roots. And then it took me, when I had to come and put it all together, it took me back to what we had created in season 5 using Huck and Color and Weave. My gosh, these patterns are absolutely mind-boggling. And again, because of my obsessive compulsive nature, which I think is wonderful and I'm grateful I have it, it allows me to go deeply into so many places until I feel like I've exhausted it. So I wove so much playing with these GAMPs. I presented this to everybody in season 5, and I feel that possibly I overwhelmed everyone too much with my enthusiasm. I have a tendency to do that. Anyway, I decided that I was going to go back and have a look at this, and I chose my favorite striping sequence from this GAMP to bring forward and overlay onto what Harriet Tidball did. I was also inspired by a piece from Marguerite Porter Davison's book where she had made her units symmetrical. So the block then became bigger. So all of those pieces came together, morphed together, and grew in my little garden and came out as this episode. But I wouldn't have all of this again if it weren't for those weavers who went before. All right, so you have 2 PDFs. One is a PDF from one column of the GAMPs that I created using this new structure. But first of all, I'm just going to show you what's inside here, remind you what's inside here. This first page shows the evolution of standard traditional threading of M's and O's. It compares it to the standard traditional threading, or the threading that I use, of Huck. It then morphs it into something different down here, into a 5-thread half unit. Then it morphs it into a symmetrical 3 units to make a block. And then we clean it up in the bottom row. So this shows you the journey of how I took M's and O's, traditional M's and O's, out on a date with Huck. And then I invited Color and Weave to come along on that date and we started playing with all kinds of things. So structurally, we see what was happening up here. Then we start overlaying color and weave onto the units, onto the half units, onto the threads, onto the blocks. Building, building, building ideas. And then we go to the GAMPs. So I did 2 GAMPs in my exploration. I only presented one because clearly another one would have left you speechless or brain dead. Didn't want to do either. And I chose elements from all of them. And what was so magical and remarkable about this is that we know from Ems and O's last year that so much of the pattern emerges when we wash it. We know that from Huck as well. So I chose, it's exactly the same threading in all 3 columns. This one is just bigger to accommodate some symmetry in the pattern. But these threadings are all the same, 15 thread A block, 15 thread B block, over and over and over. And then I started to weave them trompes rit, and I played with all kinds of things. We can see this is it, trompes rit in this corner. Let's start over there. That's trompes rit on that. This is trompes rit on the center threading. This is trompes rit on this threading, this little guy here. I wonder if you can see it better if I were to. I think I should be doing this. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? So then I just played. Then I got carried away and started playing with all kinds of ideas. Other color and weave sequences, thick and thin. I'm going to make the light thick, and I'm going to make the dark thin. That's how I got this one. Focusing on one area. Clearly, I was focusing on this one. Whatever happened in the other ones, well, it happened. But my eye is always finding some place to live. And I develop it. Working with blocks, working with just units. What I got was an incredible amount of information. Just a ton of information. Look at this. Look at that. Well, so I didn't lose anybody, and I didn't want to lose anybody on this little journey. I had to make a decision about which column I was going to use and build into the project. I continued on also, by the way. I washed these off, and then I thought, oh, heck, there's way more I haven't done. So I created a whole other one, and then there was another whole GAMP with more threadings that I did not show anybody during the episode, and that's because I'm saving it, and we're going to use it going forward. I can't leave this. This is too important and too precious for us to just do one little episode and walk away from, because how this can morph into so many other things. We could weave this in twill, we could weave this in monk's belt, we could morph this into deflected double weave. And that's what we're going to do with this piece going forward, because it has so many ways to interact with other weave structures that we think of as separate, but they're not. All right? So that was a huge play, and I presented some of that play, not all of it, but one column. I chose one column, and I chose the column that would be the easiest one to make a warp from. The one that would be fast, not fussy, and no one would need to be scared of it. And because I want you to try it. That's why I chose that column. And then from that column, I created a PDF of what I thought were some of the most interesting ideas. And I think it's 10 pages long with all the instructions on how to weave it based on what's in your big PDF. Truly remarkable pattern coming out of a 4-shaft loom in a very systematic and elegant way. And then all we have to do is take these ideas and plunk them into the big overall division of space. They all have merit. There's something different about every one of them that's special. Alrighty. And then I made the towels. And this was a warp that could have been 30 yards long, and I wouldn't have stopped. The first thing I did was play with what I call plain weave-ish. It's not perfect plain weave, but it's pretty darn close, and it has so much potential in itself, just by itself, to become this extraordinary study of color and weave, of black and white on a simple threading. This was so exciting. Here, I'll tidy this up a little bit. I'm getting messy. Here we have big alternating A blocks and B blocks, a repetitive sequence over and over and over. And it has a zinger line of a unit, the opposing unit. But it's an A, B, A, B, a little teensy-weensy unit of B. And that is repeated over and over and over again. Very striking. Very textural. You can see some relationship here to honeycomb. Gosh, I guess we could take it there too. We've never done anything in honeycomb. But we will. Big overlay of light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, light, dark, light, dark, light. So kind of log cabin theory, and it shifts those center lines between all the little dividers. There's a subtle shift from one place to the other. Very simple, very beautiful. Here is our trompe as writ. Extraordinary, beautiful towel. That is so gorgeous. 4 shafts. Have I said that yet? Maybe I'll say it again. 4 shafts. Units, alternating units. A little more delicate, but nonetheless just as beautiful. Yeah. Bringing the back to the front. And the one thing that I didn't do was weave the back of one side on the front and the front of the other one on the front. But you can. Because you know how to do it. It almost looks like stitching on the side there, on the white. Those black lines on that white look like they were hand stitched. Such possibility. This one I call bows. Little bows going up the side. I put the wide bands of white on the side so that you could always find out where you were in your sequence, because trying to find out where you are in your center sequence is kind of tough, especially when it hasn't been washed. Remember, all the curve has come into these pieces because they've been washed, but when they're on the loom, it's a lot harder to find out where you are. And so having those wide bands of white out the side, or it's actually natural, sorry, out the side, allows you to always find your place in the weaving should you get lost. I get lost all the time. I need help. Almost looks like overshot. I know that. Oh, so crazy. As I said in that earlier, when I did the episode, I kind of thought sometimes things were a little bit too busy, and if I were to do them again, I would change things up. But I learned a great deal, and how do you know until you weave it? You know, for me, there's only one way to go, and that's to continue at it, go forward, get the whole thing off the loom, look at it, critique it, and say, what should I do different? And then try it again. Yeah. That's a Trampesrit version, done in horizontal stripes with some plain weavish in between them. And this one is my favorite. It's just stunning. And I just have to say it one more time, 4 shafts. Look at those curves. Look at it on that natural border. Oh my gosh. It's like they have little curly mustaches. Positive, negative, that's all that is. Color reversal. Do the same treadling, dark light, and reverse the treadling the other time. Gosh, how cool is that? It's really, really cool. So, my darlings, we did an awful lot this year, and we built on what we learned last year, and we built on what we've been learning through all of these years, and it's so exciting. I thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for coming on this journey with me. I really think it just gets better every year. We learn so much every year on how to improve what we do, to give you the best quality video that we can, and we all care so much. I have to share something with you, some news. Earlier in the season, I talked about moving forward towards 8-shaft weaving. And having done this entire season and falling deeper and deeper in love with my 4-shaft weaving, I can't just abandon it. So I've made a big decision that going forward next year in season 8, I'm going to do a 4-shaft pattern, a 4-shaft project, and an 8-shaft project for every episode, and one will be the finale, just like this is. It'll give you more time in between each episode to weave the piece, to digest, to eat it and digest it, and possibly weave it, and not feel like you're always behind. I hear that so much, and it breaks my heart. It's not going anywhere. You can't possibly watch everything that's on Netflix in the first year that you have your subscription. You know, you got to keep it for a while. And the other thing that I'm doing is I want to highlight a few other weavers that are phenomenal teachers, and we are going to have 2 guest instructors next year. And they are instructors from my dream team, weavers that are interested in teaching, that show a great interest in teaching and have been teaching out in the community already, and that is Rebecca Logan and Barbara Mitchell. Barbara Mitchell has had several articles in Handwoven magazine, and Rebecca Logan has several compilations of her designs on handweaving.net. So it's really exciting for me to invite other teachers into the school for the first time ever. And I think you're gonna love it. Anyway, 4-shaft and 8-shaft, moving forward, new teachers, and I'll tell you more about it next month when you see our trailer for season 8. So, I'm gonna love you, and I'm gonna leave you. And I'll see you soon.